He refused, as I said, because they wanted an ethnically clean army, because they wanted the army to be under the influence of the SDS.
I don't understand that sentence. He refused because they wanted an ethnically clean army.
Yes, that's what the...
Who are the they?
They, the VRF, Radovan Karadzic. The they is the Bosnian Serbs.
Now, if you say, are you saying the VRS's desire for an ethnically clean army is the reason why he refused?
Let me rephrase what I want to say, Your Honor. Maybe I didn't make it clear. President Karadzic approached General Perišić. He asked him to be the commander of the army. General Perišić, who had been serving in Bosnia, in the Mostar area, was familiar with the activities that were occurring in Bosnia. He refused Karadzic's offer to become VRS main staff commander because, and I'm using his own words, because they wanted an ethnically clean army. He's referring to the Karadzic's army, and the political leaders wanted the army to be an ethnically clean army. So he refused. He also refused because he said they wanted the army to be under the influence of the SDS. The SDS was the party of Radovan Karadzic. The SDS was the party that advocated, as I'll say inform you in a few minutes in my remarks, wanted ethnically clean territories. He also refused because he said, and he didn't give any further details on this, because I saw that their concept is unacceptable for my belief. In any event, he refused. Instead, General Perišić was instrumental in the appointment of his friend and fellow JNA officer, Ratko Mladić, to become head of the VRS. You can see that, Your Honor, in Prosecution Exhibit 2938, which on page 8, this is an excerpt, Your Honors, from Ratko Mladić's diary. It is dated the 11th of May, 1992. In other words, this is one day before the 16th session where Ratko Mladić was announced to be the VRS main staff commander. And what Mladić's diary records is a statement from General Perišić. And what is recorded is the following. Ninković and I undertook an initiative with Karadzic for Mladić to come here. He showed with his example what a JNA officer should be like. You have the right person. If you support him, you will get what you want. Now, this account that's reflected in General Mladić's notebook was corroborated by Radovan Karadzic at the 50th session of the Bosnian Serb Assembly in April of 1995. You'll find that at P312, page 317. Now, I mentioned the 16th session because the 16th session was a critically important session in the development of the Republika Srpska. Besides the announcement of and the establishment of the VRS, and beside the announcement that General Mladić was to be its commander, it was important for another reason. At that session, President Karadzic announced and discussed the strategic objectives of the Serbian people in Bosnia. Now, the mere announcement of those objectives wasn't an epiphany. Those objectives had been known before their formal announcement at the 16th session. The text of this portion of Karadzic's exposition on the strategic objectives is found in P188. Now, if we can turn, Your Honors, to the strategic objectives themselves, which is P334, they are before you, there were 6 strategic objectives. 3 are directly relevant to this case. Strategic objective number 1 was the demarcation of the state as separate from the other 2 national communities. In other words, the separation of the Serbs from the non-Serbs. The third strategic objective, establishment of a corridor in the Drina River Valley, the eradication of the Drina River as a border between the Serbian states, is relevant because it relates to the events that took place in and around Srebrenica. Strategic objective number 5 is relevant because it relates to the events that we have described in the indictment relating to Sarajevo. It reads, partition of the city of Sarajevo into Serbian and Muslim sections, and the establishment of an effective state authority in each section. Now, according to Momčilo Perišić, who was at the time president of the Bosnian Serb Assembly, Mr. Perišić has subsequently been convicted in this tribunal for various crimes. He, after the enunciation of the strategic objectives by Perišić, he stated the following, and this is, I think, very important. He stated, and this is what he says, the first goal, in other words, the goal of ethnic separation, is the most important one. And in relation to all other goals are sub-items of the first one. Now, according to defense witness Dusan Kovacevic, who is the former RS Minister of Defense and a member of the 30th Personnel Center, the strategic objectives were military as well as political objectives, and the military implemented those objectives. If we could, Your Honors, go to a map of Bosnia. This is an ethnic map. It is P2963. It's the ethnic map as of 1991. And as you can see, I'm sorry, I've misquoted the exhibit number is 2693. My colleague is kind enough to bring that to my attention. As you can see, Your Honors, in this map, Bosnia is a patchwork. The ethnic communities are intertwined. It is, in fact, it was the richness of Bosnia, that it was multi-ethnic, and it appears to be reflected in that map. According to the testimony before Your Honors, and I would also submit according to common sense, separation was an objective that was impossible to achieve without the use of force or the immediate or credible threat of force. Unraveling the ethnic communities was an impossibility. It could be done one way, and that's the way it was done. From the evidence that we have received in this trial, the Bosnian Serb forces, the VRS, implemented strategic objective number 1 robustly. They reconfigured the map of Bosnia. What's important for this case, Your Honors, and very important for this case, is that the strategic objectives of the Bosnian Serbs never changed throughout the war. They never changed throughout the period when General Perišić was chief of the VJ General Staff. General Perišić was aware of the strategic objectives of the Bosnian Serb people. If we go to Prosecution Exhibit 2933, Your Honor, this is another excerpt from General Mladić's diary. It reflects a meeting that took place on the 13th of December, 1993. That meeting was attended by General Perišić. It was attended by Slobodan Milosevic and from the Republika Srpska. It was attended by Karadzic, Mladić, General Milovanovic, General Đukić, General Militic. President of the Bosnian Serb Assembly, Momčilo Perišić, who believed that the strategic objective number 1 was the most important, and it was attended by others. During this meeting, President Karadzic described, and what's reflected in the report, he identified the strategic objectives of the Bosnian Serb people. Number 1, to be separated from the Muslims and Croats. Number 3, for the Drina not to be the border. And he says 6, to have our part of Sarajevo. Thus, Your Honors, throughout Perisić's tenure as the VJ Chief of the General Staff, and at all times, he was providing arms and ammunition and personnel, critical assistance that the VRS needed to prosecute the war. He was fully aware of the objectives of the Bosnian Serbs and their intentions toward the non-Serbs. He knew their attitudes. That's why he rejected becoming chief of the VRS main staff. He knew of their strategic objectives, and he knew from common sense that ethnic groups, non-Serbs, would not willingly abandon their homes, their villages, except through the use of force. Your Honors, on the 19th of May, 1992, about 6 weeks after the war in Bosnia started, the JNA officially withdrew from Bosnia. Of course, that was an artifice. In truth and in fact, the JNA's support, and later the VJ's support of the VRS, continued undiminished. The JNA had stockpiles of arms, ammunition, military equipment in various warehouses in Bosnia. Before the JNA left Bosnia, some of that material was seized by Bosnian Muslim and Bosnian Croat forces. However, the JNA left the vast majority, vast stockpiles of arms, ammunition, and other war material to the VRS. And it was that arsenal in the earliest stages of the war that sustained the VRS war machine. Now, as those, I will say, those supplies, Your Honor, were not inexhaustible. And after the break, I will make submissions on that. 10:15 is when we break. Is that right, Your Honor? 10:30.
You are right, Mr.
Then I will. I don't want to. This is an appropriate time.
Take a break and come back at 11:45, 11:45.